Well, it's time now to look at what's grabbing headlines around the world, and Alison Sargent is back with us. Many papers reacting to the US's decision to drop the mother of all bombs on Afghanistan.
That's right, Julia. And this was a decision that might not actually have been made by Donald Trump. That's according to the New York Times. They report that Donald Trump didn't confirm whether or not he was the one who personally approved that mission in Afghanistan. And they also say that Donald Trump, when he entered office, gave extra power to the Department of Defense, giving more authority to military commanders on the ground to launch airstrikes. So the paper says that this bombing yesterday in Afghanistan, as well as the bombing in Syria yesterday that killed a group of the US's allies, both of these bombings raise concerns about whether the White House is applying any rigor to the process of approving airstrikes. The paper notes that loosening the reins on military commanders actually began at the tail end of the Obama administration, but civilian casualties in Iraq and Syria have gone up since Trump entered office. And they cite a tracking group called Air Wars that says that March was actually the deadliest month for civilians on record in that area.
Now, this bomb is the biggest non-nuclear weapon in the US arsenal, and many papers are wondering why the United States chose to use it.
Yeah, one theory that's been floating around is that airstrikes have actually become Donald Trump's weapon of mass distraction. That idea is illustrated in a cartoon. This is by the American cartoonist Ed Hall. It's been circulating on Twitter. And as with the strike just a week ago now in Syria, some commentators say that Trump is using wars abroad to distract from problems at home, such as the Russian hacking scandal. Now, a more widely held theory, though, is that using a bomb this big is really a way of making a statement. The left-wing paper, Israeli newspaper, Haaretz, says that it's really hard to justify using a bomb this big on an enemy as minor as the Islamic State group's branch in Afghanistan. So this writer thinks that Donald Trump was definitely behind the choice to use this weapon, and that it wasn't a tactical choice, it was actually a message. Now, who was that a message for? The Wall Street Journal has a few ideas in their editorial today. The conservative paper gives a list of groups that they hope notice this display of American purpose, as they call it. First, the Islamic State group, not just in Afghanistan, but also in Iraq, Syria, and Libya. And the paper also lists Vladimir Putin, Bashar al-Assad, and Kim Jong-un in North Korea as people that they hope heard this message from the president.
And now, speaking of North Korea, the country is gearing up to celebrate the birthday of its founder on Saturday.
That's right, this is a national holiday in North Korea known as the Day of the Sun. It celebrates the birthday of Kim Il-sung, who is the grandfather of Kim Jong-un. And many are expecting that North Korea will celebrate this day with another nuclear test. Satellite images have shown that there's been a lot of action at the country's underground testing site. And as the Washington Post reports, this is causing a lot of anxiety among North Korea's neighbors, Japan, South Korea, and also Australia. The paper notes, though, that North Korea kind of enjoys stoking its adversaries' fears, and that there were similar expectations around another anniversary back in October, but that nothing actually happened. So according to the paper, this could actually all just be psychological warfare.
And finally, Turkey is gearing up for its big constitutional referendum coming up this Sunday.
That's right. We've been watching this referendum for weeks now. It would significantly expand the powers of the Turkish president. And the race is very close. You can see on the front page of Turkish paper Hurriyet Daily News, yes and no are in a fierce race. President Erdogan says that passing the referendum would give the country greater stability. Opponents, though, say it would turn him into a one-man ruler. And while people in the country are voting on Sunday, Turks living abroad have already voted. And there are 1.4 million Turks living abroad, which is quite a large number. And Politico reports that they may swing the vote. And if they do swing the vote, they are likely to swing it in favor of the referendum. According to observers quoted by Politico, many politically active Turkish expats support the president, and the failed coup also convinced many Turks abroad that the country needs the strong government that President Erdogan embodies. So they say Turkish voters don't actually see a disconnect between the democratic freedoms they enjoy and the support they're giving to an increasingly undemocratic president.
So big changes possibly up ahead for Turkey, but one high-profile Turkish journalist is attempting to convince Turks to vote no. He's penned a op-ed in the Washington Post. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, this is Can Dündar. He's the former editor-in-chief of the paper Cumhuriyet. He's been living in exile, and the government actually has an arrest warrant out for him. He talks in this editorial about how unbalanced the campaign has been and calls it a deadly tug-of-war. On state TV, the Yes campaign has been given 5 times as much airtime as the No campaign, and No campaigners have also been threatened and attacked. Their opposition rallies have been banned. So he says that a yes vote would mean unchecked power and a possible return to the death penalty in Turkey, while a no would mean the beginning of the end for President Erdogan. So he concludes this editorial by saying, on Sunday, one single word has the power to change the destiny of an entire nation.
Great. Thank you very much for that, Alison Sargent with the International Press Review.